That's all we need tonight. You know, and they're waiting for that. Once we get that, we will get our 501c3, we'll get our EIN, and we've gone away with the financials. Okay. We do need a bank account, and I will mention that I've been around Southlakes a long time, so I got a lot of years for my older son.
Yeah.
And there was an incident about 15, 20 years ago in which the booster organization had a fraudulent issue. And so they're, you know, Southlakes is really sensitized to this, but also just, I think, Virginia in general is, you know, really careful about booster organizations and how they scrutinize the accounting for the treasury. This individual's in jail now.
I'm just going to tell you, like, so I'm one of the adult youth in our scout troop, and we got audited maybe 6 years ago because Square reported this for like a lot of suspicious microtransactions. Because of course, we have a cap out, every kid is paying $55, right? So suddenly you have a $22, $55 transaction, right? It's like you got audited as a 501c3.
Yeah.
You know, and the treasurer since then says like, from now on, it's checks.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
so I get it.
you have to be careful. So that's it. So the treasurer's position on the officers is a really important job. You know, so it's kind of involved. So that's an important aspect of it. Yeah, and it's good to have a website, Instagram, and we're looking for that coach. I haven't heard any updates on coaching. Okay, so we're still searching for that, but I'm still hoping that we can at least get a winter workout started with Andre. If we get the ergs, get things going, we have time to get a coach. You know,
That's a paid position.
It's a paid position, to say if we get the ergs in, Andre and me, myself, you know, Ryan, others can probably handle these kind of workouts. You know, we're okay with that. You know, it's not like we need a real coach yet until they get onto the water.
So we have access to school facilities, right?
We have access to school facilities.
So these things can be stored
These
somewhere in the
things
school?
can be stored here.
In a safe place?
Andrew Duggan has a place where he can store them. And we were in fact talking about doing it right here. There was some issue as to whether this was okay, but I think that Southlakes has room for us to be able to. They're talking about hallway, and I've heard people say, don't do that. Don't commit to putting these things in the hallway. You know, find a room. You know, find it close to the storage area where you can just roll them out and get them out here, and have them available. And like I say, we have 5 guys right here. You know, we'd like to have 5 ergs. You know, so that nobody's sitting around. You know, that would be ideal. Have 5 ergs.
What about access to other facilities?
Yeah, we have access to that. It would be, it's a club sport. It would be recognized by Southlakes as a club sport. Next slide. Yeah, as an all through, so as a club sport, they get award letters for it. Okay, so we are an official club sport. Let's get started here. Down the road, there are other resources. So, for instance, we might join in with a summer camp with somebody else so that we can learn a little bit more. And we have at least probably really. Ryan's the one committed, but we've had Southlakes people at these other organizations. The Loud Rowing. We've had another out in Southlakes rower there. So that's something in which. So, for example, if we can't put a full 8 boat on the water in the spring, we could actually attach onto another high school of coaching and actually help us to put a Southlakes team on the water. Okay? So again, I think the winter workout is really important. That would be our thing. But in terms of the spring, if we don't have a coach or we're still trying to get things going, we don't have a large team, there's still a possibility that we could connect with Langley, for example, or Lake Braddock, because of where we are with the boat, you know, that we could link with them, and they would help us with the training and with the on-water things, and help us put a team on, you know, on the water. You know, so it's not like we have to rely on ourselves to field a large team. You know, we can kind of work ourselves up. And I've talked to Fairfax, Lake Braddock, of course, Briar Woods, a number of the high schools, and they've been very supportive. Indy, another one. A number of the high schools have been really supportive in helping us get the equipment, but also just the you know, the morale and just the push, you know, to get us going, because we've been hearing, you know, congratulations, you know, you guys are starting something from scratch. You know, it's a tough thing to get going. And so we had that person from the Basra, Dorothy Lazar. She's very supportive. You know, talks to she talks to me every week about, you know, oh, we've got this set up, and you know, so they're really giving us a lot of support. So I think that one of the things that I would emphasize is that, you know, this is an inaugural crew. It's a novice. Anybody that rows with Southlakes this spring actually qualifies as a novice team, which is in a special category of rowing. So it's a unique novice inaugural team. And I think in terms of college aspirations, you know, as I say, my Ryan's older brother was a baseball player here at Southlakes, and he was going to play baseball because he was too, you know, and then he decided to go to Tulane University. He walked on to Tulane while he was waiting to start with the Tulane baseball team, and he enjoyed the crew so much he stayed with the crew, you know, and now he's head coach of crew at Tulane. He's volunteered also. He'll be coming up in December, so he was going to come up and help with the team to do some workouts when he's here. And I was just talking to him today about it, and he was just emphasizing that when he's looking at athletes for Tulane University, one of the critical things he's looking for is what their times are on the erg. This is how you judge an athlete. You know, one of the ways he judges them by height, and the other is by their times on the erg. And you know, you know, part of it is water, their experience in the water, but that's not a big part of it. A lot of it is just really how athletic they are. And so, you know, in terms of looking at beyond high school, being, you know, one of the early Southlakes teams, I think a lot of you guys being here, this is a really great opportunity, because it just, you know, looks good on the application, college application, you know, which is you started early on with the Southlakes team, you know, and you were able to you know, succeed in getting you know, some success with the rowing. Okay, so that's that. Show you something else here. So usually there's registration that the high schools have, where it'll start with the winter workouts and it'll include, you know, so the registration going into the spring. And I'm just going to emphasize that we, you know, again, we have really not much information as to what we're going to look like in the spring as far as boats and things. So, you know, my thought is that we basically start very simple. You know, we figure out some fundraising that we can get these ergs in, we can get some coaching, get things going, but registration and all the plans will be kind of ongoing. I don't see any close out, you know, and saying, oh, you know, okay, the team's formed, this is it. I mean, there's athletes that are doing other sports in the winter, You know, so if you're doing some other sport, you know, then, you know, the erg practice could be something that you do outside of the sport, you know, or it's something where, you know, we might be pretty flexible in terms of saying, well, the erg is here, and you can just bring it out at your own time, you know, and do a workout, you know. It would be school-based because that is, you know, it's difficult to take it home. But the idea is that we would work with you as an athlete in another sport, or, you know, if you've got other commitments. And so, you know, I think we have to be flexible on that, you know. But more times, I think Ryan can vouch for that, the more you're on the erg, the better. You know, Ryan's is pretty consistent, you know, it's nice to have it downstairs, you know, and so he just jumps on it when he has a chance, you know, and he does a workout with that. It's done, you know, so it's really quick. So I think that's important to have as many ergs as we can possibly get in, so that it's encouraging to the team to say, yeah, there's where the crew's, you know, ergs are, this is where the crew works out. We can pull it out, you know, it's across the hallway. I would hope it'd be really close. It's gonna be in this room, but the storage room is really close. We're rolling right over here and be done with it, you know. So it'd be really easy for you guys just to be able to do it after school and be done with that, you know. So we're looking for this boat, we're looking for the ergs. The launch is the boat that they use to run alongside of the rowers. Okay, we've already been 2 motors have been donated to us, so we've got motors for the launches. We don't have the launches. His box is something which was lost last week when we finished the race down at Occoquan. We couldn't find a squawk box, so my son reminded me that, you know, never count out the equipment in the boat. You're always looking for shoes, you're always looking for the rigging issues, the damage to the, you know, the inside of the boat. So, you know, it's great to have the boat, but very often you've got to replace things. There's damage, there's loss, squawk box loss. You know, the motor doesn't work. He's got, you know, he had to take another one of his launches down to a repair shop last week. You know, so it's always, you know, dealing with that. We have been given the assurance that we might have about 50K to start things from Fairfax County. So, you know, part of my discussions with Andrew Duggan is, you know, to see if that's available immediately so that we can kind of move with these ergs. And so some of the thoughts of how to do fundraising after that would be, for instance, a tag day. I mean, this is a brand new sport, and the band does tag day, and they're very successful for that. But I think also that might be something that, you know, might go well with the neighborhoods, you know, to have them out there saying, you know, this is brand new, we got a crew, and we're looking for donations. And you know, the tag day might be very successful. You know, so that's one. Another one is Langley, for instance, runs a 10K race. They've already got Thanksgiving Day race, but you know, if you get Thanksgiving 10Ks, that's $80,000 that comes in if you have a really good race. I do this with our church. They bring in $87,000 every year for the Thanksgiving race. So that's, you know, it's a pretty good thought. You know, if there's some niche where we can pull in a race or something like that. Ergathon. Somebody mentioned, Fairfax mentioned Ergathon. They said, well, it's really great that they get to do that. The one thing with the Ergathon is that tends to be sort of internal in that usually it's just grandparents and parents and things like that. So it's, you know, it's not really the public seeing that, you know, so you're not getting funds from outside. It's sort of internal, so it's a little bit, it's okay, you know, as I said, it generates, but that's what Fairfax's experience was with that. And then there's always other fundraising ideas, but it's just, my son suggested that we need, I'll show you here some of the price ranges of things. This is his ErgoFit. They're on St. Charles Street in New Orleans. And so these are all the concepts you see there in their ErgoFit. So that just lines down there. For his university team, he's got about 30 ergs there.
This is a dedicated gym.
That is a dedicated gym. That's called Urban Fit. That's the front.
Oh.
Yeah. So if you go to New Orleans, you should go there. Okay. You can visit St. Charles Street in the just outside the historic section, and the Urban Fit's right there. Pretty much restaurants. So it's a really unique place. So they're doing quite well. So those are all the herbs they got, and they work out on those. Some of the herbs cost about $9.90 new. I looked at Craigslist. I saw some for $600, $850. There also is a company out in Manassas that rents herbs. For example, one of them is 6 months, $70 per month for grower rentals in Manassas. So that's a possibility. We wouldn't have to buy them; we could just rent them. It's a possibility. Shelves. If you're buying a boat, brand new, it's $50,000. 30K for a full boat, 17K for a two, and 15K for a single. Okay, so those are price ranges you're dealing with if you're buying a new boat. Basic, that's on it's kind of the class of boat that you have. Most people, this Bowie is one of the class boats that most high schools have. I think that's what we're looking at here. Oars and rigging. Just those are things that we would have to be looking at. We have to be looking at oars, we have to be looking at rigging, shoes. What else, Ryan?
You said Cox boxes
Cox, yeah.
or squawk boxes.
Right,
That's
Cox
a
box.
big one.
Yeah. And I had mentioned the Cox thing, and you know, that's something we would just work with, but usually the Coxsons don't necessarily work out on the concept, but they can. I mean, it's they don't need to. So it's a little bit of difference there. The Coxsons are sort of dedicated to directing the boat and keeping things going. And I actually have a video that we can show. I think we can show that how the Coxsons plays into the rowing. But those are that's some of the equipment. And then the boathouse, we've been given that spot. It's a unique spot, and that's why we're starting this thing, which is that we have a spot that will run marina. And we're sharing with Lake Braddock High School. And I'm going to talk to Lake Braddock tomorrow again. We've been in discussion. I'm going to call them tomorrow and review them tonight just to do a little update and see what they can offer us.
But is that boathouse also with its own rental, or?
Yeah. Yeah. So there's a cost there, but it also, the key to it is that there's a slot there. That was the thing that made everything work. Okay, so we do have that slot, but that's down at the Occoquan. Okay, so that's a drive. And so the other important element of this is that we have to figure out a way to get down to the Occoquan. Okay, if we're not working out with another crew, we're working with Langley, then that's a different. It might be a different location. Okay, but if we're working, for instance, we're working out with Lake Braddock, that's a little marina. Okay, so the question is how to get down here. Well, there is a possibility we can have a shuttle that has a Wi-Fi connection, so that the shuttle drives down to the Occoquan, and the team is on that shuttle bus, and you have access so that you can do your homework on the way down and back. So you're not losing a whole lot of time in terms of the commute down here, which is a little bit of a drive, especially in this location. Unfortunately, we don't see the Fairfax County Parkway down here. But still, I think I would call it a 30-minute drive. Yeah. You know a lot about that. Exactly. Well, you know this area. You know exactly who it is. Exactly. You never know. So that's an important aspect, which I think fills it in, makes it doable. Which is that we can have that shuttle, and we can, have you being able to do your homework and not lose a lot of time with that, and get down to the boathouse and then get back. In the fall, there was a little bit of it. Brian was rowing with Allen Rowing Association, which is out of Beaver Dam, near Dulles Airport. That's a 30-minute drive in the fall, they're dealing with sunset. And, you know, so the practices became shorter and shorter as we were dealing with that sunset. So that's what you see in the fall. In the spring, it's a little more relaxed. It sort of goes in the opposite direction in that the water usually is really cold as we start practices. So it might be too cold to really get out there in the spring early on. And so but it gets easier and easier as we go closer to the summer. Launches, you know, we'll have to figure that out. Trailer truck and tent is that if we were going to a competition, I'll show you some competitions that are going, but we would need a way of getting from the Bull Run Marina to the competitions, which for the most part are all a little further downstream at the Occoquan, so it's like 5 miles down. So some of the high schools are saying, well, you know, they've done it before, they've seen, you know, the crews do this, is that they pull their boat out and they just float downstream to the competition, you know. That could be possible. Or we can kind of join another crew team, just get on their boat, on their trailer, you know, and have them just take our boat down here. That's much easier. My son has the full, you know, setup, so he's got a trailer, and he went to Atlanta last week, and he's got a truck, and he drove, you know, all night to get the launch, to get the boats there early in the morning for the race this last weekend, you know, but he's got the setup for that, so he's got, you know, so, but that's down the road. That's a trailer, you know, and he was saying, you know, you can rent a truck too, you know, always possibilities that way, working that way, but for the most part, for a number of years, I don't think we'd ever see that. We'd see, you know, borrowing or you know, hitchhiking onto another team's trailer to get down to Occoquan, which is where most of those competitions are on the border. So we would look at erg practice in the winter, starting spring at the Bull Run Marina like in February, late February. We share that space with Lake Braddock. Looking at that shuttle. And competitions might be things like, for instance, there's a January 31st erg sprint in Alexandria. So that would be something where we would compete with the ergs we've worked out for the winter, and that might be our inaugural competition, you know, so that's easily done. That would be the thing we'd probably be gearing towards so far, Southlakes. And then after that, then we're looking at the Polar Bear Regatta in March. That's a sandy run. Everything from there on, March 28th, April 4th, April 11th. Those are all the Occoquan and sandy run. And later on in April, same thing. These are all Occoquan regattas. And finally, there's something in May in Philadelphia that they call the Stokesbury, which is a kind of a legend as far as the competition. But I don't think we'd be looking at that for another year or so. But, yeah. Right. So, as an invitation. So, those are some of the competitions, but again, they would all be at Occoquan. So, we would have the probably be pretty easy to get there. So, you know, some of the dynamics are there, you know, and so, as I say, I think, you know, we're close. We have the ability to put a team together, you know, and, you know, we've got time. So I think we're moving on this. We're not at the urgent stage yet. You know, it'd be nice to have a coach, but we still get started with the ergs, you know, and we can still look at that competition at the end of January as our thing, and that's it. That's the competitions there, and I was just going to show you. Yeah, this is the. It's too soon. So that's rowing on the Potomac. That was an 8-boat that was allowed in rowing association. It was really nice, and it's beautiful to see the team when they get in here and they start rowing, and we've got the whole group, pushing out there. It's a fantastic sport, and so we learned to really enjoy it. I'm really enthusiastic about the idea that, we could start something in Southlakes. Be the first thing, first time we start something new. So I think it's fantastic that you guys are interested in it. This is a unique opportunity to get things going. So that's where we are. Questions? Any discussions? Any thoughts? Go ahead, Ryan.
Do you mind if I jump up real quick?
Yes, Ryan.
My name is Ryan Hubby. I've been rowing for Loudon Rowing Association for about 3 years now for their fall seasons. Rowing is a sport that I thought going into freshman year would be like a one and done. Like, I'll try fall season. I don't think I'm gonna like it. It's not gonna be fun. And my coach on the first day said something that really resonated and just completely lives with me now for rowing. He said, rowing is the type of sport that you're never going to get old and never going to quit. From the moment you start rowing, you can row till like 90. He said you can row from when you're walking till when you're not. As long as you can walk, you can row. He also said that rowing is the type of sport that once you get on the water, everything of the day, like anything bad that happens, is just gonna go away. Like you didn't do too well on a test, had a bad day at school, it's just gonna wash away once you get on the water. This is an amazing sport. Just to jump in on what you said about the water, rowing is an all-weather sport. Predicts that unless it's thundering and lightning, we will have rowing that day. If it's pouring, we're still going to go. We're still going to row on the water. Might have to pail out a bit of water from the rain, but mostly we're going to be rowing no matter what, hot, cold. So that's really all I had to say.
I'm going to put on the video that shows you that. But also, if you guys want to, anybody wants to try this? We brought it in, so come on up and